Hello, hello, hello. This is the Vanilla.js podcast. I'm Chris Ferdinandi. Thanks for joining me. Today, I wanted to talk about the defer attribute, what it is, and when you should use it. Just a quick note before we jump in, though. If you learn best by working on projects but struggle to come up with ideas or wish you had someone to help you get unstuck, I think you'll love my Vanilla.js Academy training program. Every other day, you get a short lesson or two and a project to work on. And on the in-between days, I share how I approach the project and common issues that people run into. Every other week, you can join video office hours to ask questions, and there's also a private Slack channel where you can share your works in progress and chat with other students. A new session of the Vanilla.js Academy is starting on January 6th, and as a listener of this podcast, you can take 30% off with the code PODCAST at checkout. Visit vanillajsacademy.com to learn more, or hit me up on email and just ask me any questions you have. It's an awesome program. I think you're going to love it. And if you really want to make 2020 the year that you kick things up a notch and become a JavaScript expert, I cannot recommend this program enough. It's the best learning offering I've ever put together. All right, so enough of that. Let's jump right into today's show. So earlier in the month, I wrote about how you probably don't need a DOM content loaded event in your JavaScript. And so if you're unfamiliar with this, it's an event that you can attach to the document using the add event listener method. And it works a lot like the jQuery ready event, if you've ever worked with jQuery or are familiar with that. So it fires when all of the content in the DOM, all of the images, scripts, and CSS files and content are done loading. And it's a way for you to add your scripts to the header, but not have them run until all of the body content is loaded. So like if you're referencing elements in the body, you want to wait until they're there before you try and run your script, or you're going to get errors. The thing is, if you're going to wait until the DOM content is loaded before running your script, why not just put it in the footer in the first place? JavaScript in the header can cause massive bottlenecks and rendering delays, so moving your script to the footer is better for performance too. And that is absolutely true. But in response, I had a ton of people reply back telling me that adding the defer attribute on a script element in the head will do the same thing and provide better performance gains. And so if you're not familiar with this, it's literally just an attribute. So where you would have your script element with the source attribute and a link to your external JavaScript file, you would also have defer as an attribute on there. And to be honest, I was a bit confused by this because from what I understood, defer told browsers to wait until the DOM content was loaded before downloading and parsing a script. It turns out I was wrong. So many thanks to the wonderful Katie Seiler Miller, who's the creator of Oh Shit Git. And Katie, if I fucked up your name, I'm really sorry. Great with faces, terrible with names. And also thanks to Aaron Peters. The two of them took some time to explain to me what actually happens and how I was wrong. So Katie in particular wrote, quote, "With defer, the browser can find the script slightly sooner than the preload scanner would, and then it can prioritize download it in parallel while the DOM is parsing." So basically when the browser finds this script, it'll download it. It won't block other files from downloading or rendering. And then by the time you get to the footer and you're ready to actually run this thing, you don't have to then wait for it to download the way you would if you would put the script tag in the footer. The file's already downloaded and ready to just run. So as Katie says, this means that the DOM can be completely parsed and DOM interactive fires while the JavaScript could still be getting downloaded rather than waiting until after the JavaScript comes back and gets parsed and executed. So in short, with defer on a script in the head, the JavaScript file downloads in the background, and then when you get to the bottom of the page, it's already there and ready to run, so it can improve performance. So when should you use defer? If you have any non-critical JavaScript files or any code that depends on the DOM being rendered to run, load it in the head with the defer attribute. This will result in the best performance on most browsers. That is, of course, unless your entire document is less than 14 kilobytes minified and gzipped, in which case you're better off inlining everything. And I have an article on that. I'll drop that in the show notes. Also, now would be an important time to point out that you can only use the defer attribute with external scripts. You cannot use it with inlined JavaScript. So what does browser support look like? The defer attribute works in all modern browsers and IE 10 and up. And if you need to support IE 9 or lower, you probably should use the DOM content loaded event listener with your code too. Otherwise, the script will just immediately run in the header. The elements you need won't be there. In like IE 9, for example, which doesn't support defer, it'll load the old-fashioned way. You'll get an error and things will break. So Steve Griffith actually told me that he recommends to his students use defer, wrap your content in a DOM content loaded event so that in older browsers it works the way you would like it to. For some related reading, Flavio wrote a really great article on this topic where he talks about all the different performance implications of different ways of loading JavaScript. And the amazing Steve Griffith put together a super helpful video on the subject too that kind of actually shows you how different things happen using different loading techniques. So I will drop links to all that stuff in the show notes, and you can go check it out. And that's it for today. Let's make 2020 the year you become a JavaScript pro. Head over to Vanilla.js Academy to learn more about the January session and of my project-based online training program, which starts again on January 6th. And don't forget, you can take 30% off with the code podcast at checkout. So that's it. See you next time. Cheers.